Democracy. Who are we and what would we be without it? The idea of freedom and equality between all people is not to be taken lightly. In the past, this view was not widely shared, and even today there are societies governed by autocratic ideals. And so this concept of voting for one's preferred government and letting one's voice be heard is to be treated with the honor that it is. The United Nations General Assembly recognized this when, in 2007, it resolved to observe September 15 as the International Day of Democracy, with the idea of promoting and upholding the principles of democracy. All member states and organizations are invited to commemorate the day in an appropriate manner that contributes to raising public awareness. Welcome to this Sunday's edition of Jamaica Magazine. We hope you are getting refreshed and ready for the new week ahead. And for the young ones going back to school and who may still be feeling jittery, here's a reminder.
Fear is not the decider. Nervousness is understandable. Victory is the goal, after all. You are strong. You are brave. You have what it takes. You are ready. You are ready.
Today's our day. There were nights we would fight.
If you're a student below grade 7 and struggling in school, pay special attention because this one is for you. The Ministry of Education is starting a transformation program for those struggling at the beginning of high school. Let's listen in to learn more.
Welcome to Get the Facts, the program that provides you with accurate and timely information on government's policies and initiatives. I'm Theodore Henry. Today we'll be discussing an exciting new initiative, the Grade 7 Academy. This is a transformational project launched by the Ministry of Education in partnership with St. Michael's College. Now, this program aims to support some of the most underserved and vulnerable students in our educational system, particularly those who have recently entered high school with very low levels of literacy. 2 underperforming schools have been selected for this initiative, with one of them located in Kingston. Now, to delve deeper into this program, we're joined by Dr. Faith Alexander, Literacy Instructional Leader, and Mrs. Grace Baston, former principal of Campion College and project lead of the 7th Grade Academy. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Let's jump right into getting the facts. Lady Baston, I'd like to begin with you. Can you provide an overview of what Grade 7 Academy is and what it's meant to do?
Right, thank you, Theodore. So, the Grade 7 Academy. This intervention is meant to address, in a radical way, the problem of students entering high school, as you said in your introduction, with such low levels of literacy.
Right.
So, if, and Holy Trinity is not alone,
That's one
the
of
school
the
we're using
schools.
in Kingston,
Okay,
the Holy Trinity
right.
High School. It's one of maybe 40 schools that have the same demographic, where students entering first form or grade 7, of the number, maybe 2 or 3% are reading at the level of proficiency you need to be able to engage the high school curriculum.
2 or 3%?
2 or 3%, right. So if a cohort, say, in 2023 of 200 students, that would have been about 3 or 4 students.
Wow.
And the majority of our children then reading at, grade 4, grade 3, grade 2, prima, pre-prima, or non-readers. Now, right, this is clearly something has gone wrong.
Right.
After 11 years, after, all their time in primary school.
Right.
Whatever time they had in basic school, 6, 7, 8 years, they ought to be reading at least at grade 6, grade 7. No fault of the children's. We're just accepting it's a systemic problem and a serious problem.
And we're here now. Okay.
And this is where we are. Mm-hmm. So this intervention is meant to do 2 things. First of all, the objectives are, 1, to move that percentage of children reading proficiently in that cohort from only 2% or 3% to 75% in 1 year.
Big jump.
Super ambitious,
Big
but
jump.
we believe very doable.
All right.
And secondly, to engage in a kind of a re-socialization of the students. A lot of these children come to us very talented, wonderful, beautiful Jamaican children, but carry, come with maladaptive behaviors. And some of it compounded, of course, by the fact that they're not reading.
Right.
Then there are the issues of how they feel about themselves and so on. So the program aims to do as well. It's going to improve literacy and numeracy in 1 year in a very dramatic way. But 2, it is going to provide these children with an intense, rigorous program of character formation and personal development. It's very grounded in Christian values.
And I think we're going to talk about that a little bit later. But you mentioned 2 schools. I mentioned 2 schools and you mentioned 2 schools. Holy Trinity 1.
Right.
Who's the second?
The second one, which will have a delayed start, is the Newell High School in St. Elizabeth.
Newell in St. Elizabeth. Dr. Alexander, I want to bring you in here. Now, what specific challenges? I heard the numbers, but talking about Holy Trinity, how does the Grade 7 Academy, this plan, this ambitious 1-year plan, what are the details of addressing this literacy issue?
So one of the things that we'll be doing with addressing the low levels of literacy is using a framework called the Science of Reading, which we can expound on later,
Sure.
which was used with exceptional, exceptional success in Mississippi.
Mississippi, okay.
And so our program is grounded in the science of reading. Additionally, the children will be participating in technology to practice those skills that they would have learned, that would have been directly taught. So every day the kids will be playing in a sort of gamified way for an hour every day for both math and literacy.
Coming to school to play. I like it. I like it. So, and you mentioned something which I find very important, that this has been tested and proven.
Yes.
You mentioned Mississippi.
Yes.
I want to come back to you now, Mrs. Baston. Now, public and private partnerships, you hear a lot about this stuff, and a project like this sounds very ambitious.
Right.
So I'm assuming that there is quite a bit of partnerships. Can you tell us a bit about
Right. So the ministry has been wonderful in first of all, in our biggest partner, in allowing us to suspend the normal curriculum. Instead of these children doing 15 subjects, and they've allowed us in this program to concentrate on the literacy and numeracy. Obviously, when the children are doing literacy, it's touching themes that have to do with science, touching themes that have to do with social studies, touching the themes in civics, all the things we care about, but it's unapologetically about literacy.
Right, so we have the
So
ministry.
it's every single day, 5 days a week, twice a day.
Right.
And then enriched, obviously, with drama and dance and so on. So the ministry is a huge partner. Okay. And have agreed to some of the, providing us with the teachers we need for the program. But things like the software that the children are going, the gamified software to which Dr. Alexander referred, it's at the heart of the transformation, right? Of getting the results we want. That's a huge cost. So we're seeking partnerships to help us to afford that. There's already the cost of coordinating the program, because those posts are not ministry-funded positions. There are the nutritional support. A huge part of getting this thing to be successful is having children come to school, and some of that has to do with being able to provide for them nutritious meals during the day. So the ministry will provide what it can, but again, we're reaching out to private partners to help us to do that.
Excellent. We're only halfway done. Please stay with us, because we're continuing our discussion with literacy instructional leader Dr. Faith Alexander, lead of the 7th grade academy, Mrs. Grace Baston, right after this break. Stay tuned to get the facts for more insights into the Grade 7 Academy program.
All children deserve positive parenting. Why not pamper us? Be patient with us. Make time to teach us, and of course, play with us. Celebrate milestones with us, and don't forget to be our #1 supporter. Do all these things and practice positive parenting today.
Welcome back to Get the Facts. What we know so far is that the Grade 7 Academy program aims to elevate the majority of Grade 7 students in underperforming schools. Now, the goal is to get them to at least Grade 7 literacy and numeracy standards by the end of its first year. But how will this be achieved? Now, we'll get the answers from Dr. Faith Alexander and Mrs. Grace Baston. Dr. Alexander, I want to begin with you. The average day of this academy, Monday morning, bright and early, what's that day look like for the student?
Right. So what we have done is we have crafted the timetable so that there are 2 90-minute blocks of uninterrupted instruction for math and for literacy.
Right.
In addition to that, the children have, as I mentioned before, an hour of technology. So they have 2 90-minute blocks of academics and direct instruction. Then they go and they practice the skills that they were taught in those 2 classes in the lab.
Right.
Then there's also the Christian living, as Mrs. Baston mentioned, and also performing arts, whether it be music, dance, drama, or so on.
Okay.
Importantly, the curriculum does include science and social studies. So it's not just that the children are just doing language arts. But for instance, the first module works or speaks about natural disasters, which is apropos right now.
Right.
So the kids will be learning about hurricanes, what causes a hurricane, what is an earthquake, and so on. So you see the connection between science, social studies, and language. Yes.
Right, and language. Right. You referenced a science reading framework that was proven very effective in Mississippi.
Yes.
You just touched on it, but I want you to dive into it.
All right.
Tell us about it.
So in 2012, Mississippi saw that they had a problem with literacy similar to Jamaica, and their demographics are similar to us in terms of socioeconomic status, population, and so on. And they decided to do something radical. So they did 3 things. They included the science of reading as their framework,
right,
and that speaks to phonics, phonemic awareness, comprehension, fluency, and so on. They also put in some laws which made 3rd grade mandatory for retention if the kids were not performing. We are not there.
Right.
And then they did a lot of professional development, which we are also including in our program. After 4 years, they are now in the top 95 percentile. So they are now ranked 5th in the United States after having implemented this program.
Right, right.
And so even with our technology that we're using, the technology does presuppose that after 60 hours of work on the technology, we should see a gain of at least 4 grade levels in reading, because it works on auditory processing, the neuroplasticity, all about the brain science again. So we introduced the children on Monday to the software, and they are so excited. They want to know if they can come back at lunchtime.
Right, right.
Like, will you be in the lab?
Yeah.
Work? Can we do this?
So it comes on a vehicle of fun.
Absolutely.
Right, right. Now, Mrs. Baston, you mentioned a program which I did not expect to hear.
That's right.
in a school program. You said, let me make sure I get it right, it's the Christian Living Program.
That's right.
What's that about?
Right. So it's called Christian Living. So to be clear, it's not proselytizing. It's not about baptizing everybody and making them into Roman Catholics or any other denomination. But it is, again, explicitly about grounding these children in our Christian values.
Western values.
There you go, on which our civilization is built up, right?
Right.
So the program is designed to meet the children at their level of psychosocial development. So they will be engaged in reflection sessions. They will be part of their Christian Living program because children don't learn values by you telling them to learn them. Everybody in here, we know value honesty. No. You're going to give them opportunities to practice these values. They're going to be engaged in outreach ministry, visiting the sick and the poor in their community. This is to move them away from the idea that I'm a victim, I have nothing to offer. They have so much to offer.
But Mrs. Baston, this sounds like you have you're deliberately working on forming character in these children.
This is what it is. It's a program of character formation. We are very clear. The end an aim of all education is the development of character.
That is fascinating. Dr. Alexander, we've heard about the students. They are the focus right now. You've mentioned the teachers. Do the parents have a role in this at all?
Yes. So a big part of our program is that we have our own clinical psychologist who is a part of the program. And her role is not only to help the children with their psychosocial development, but as outreach to the parents, because we need to engage the parents in our in this entire program so that they see the value of having their children being educated and to become better citizens.
Right. So leaders of this program, we're almost out of time. I have two more things to ask you. First being, how are we going to monitor and evaluate the success of this program?
That's right. So we've, with the help of Dr. Henry, current principal of Campion College.
Oh, not me. No.
We have developed a very, and I think is an excellent monitoring structure and evaluation structure. Right. It will involve our teachers meeting. One of the good things about this software that we're using with the children is it provides us with data on every single child. Every single day we can see what progress Theodore has made. He's acquired 12 more vocabulary items. He's moved up there. So that every Friday then this team will meet because we're doing what we call cura personalis. This is about the individual child and his or her growth.
Right.
So every Friday there will be this meeting to discuss the progress or lack thereof of every child, as well as the ongoing formation of the staff in this. We have to report to St. Michael's, we have to report to the ministry. Those reports will come in a monthly, monthly. But because everybody, all the stakeholders are interested in this being scalable and replicable, we're documenting it, tracking it all along the way using this instrument that's been developed by Dr. Henry.
Great, great, great. All right, we're in the toenail of the interview. Is the last few seconds, but I have to give you the opportunity to speak directly to parents, interested teachers, other administrators. Dr. Alexander, you want to go first?
Sure. So we are passionate about the 7th grade academy, and we would like to see, as Mrs. Baston mentioned, scaled, because we know that this is at the heart of transformation.
Lady Baston.
Right. Same thing. We're very excited about it. It's ambitious. Everybody says 75%. Yes, we believe it. We believe, as I was thinking about this morning, St. Edmund Campion's brag. Edmund Campion said, the expense has been reckoned. The enterprise is begun. It is of God. It will not be withstood. So when you hear us coming around private sector to ask you to join us in partnership, say yes.
Say yes, all across the board, students, teachers, parents, private sector interests, say yes. This has been Get the Facts. So our guests today were Dr. Faith Alexander, Literacy Instructional Leader, and Mrs. Grace Baston, lead of the 7th Grade Academy, who provided valuable insights into the program itself. Thank you for watching, and on to the next time. I'm Theodore Henry. Take good care.
Are you a PATH or Wards of the State applicant? Then this video is for you. Guess what? You are not required to pay an application fee. And you automatically receive our granted aid of $60,000 upon your application submission for a targeted loan. For more SLB info, follow us on all social media platforms.
Jamaica is inundated with the threat of a hurricane almost always, whenever the season comes around. But how much do we know about hurricanes? While there is little we can do about them, we certainly can do a lot to help mitigate the damage they may cause. But only knowing will help with that. Come now, let's examine what is a hurricane.
The hurricane season in Jamaica begins on June 1st and culminates at the end of November. It means that a powerful storm can occur during this period, so strong that it can cause extensive damage due to high winds, heavy rainfall, and storm surges. That is exactly what a hurricane is capable of. But what exactly is a hurricane? Understanding this can help one prepare for and respond to these powerful storms effectively.
hurricane is the most extreme stage of a rotating storm that occurs in our region. When I speak about our region, we're talking about the North Atlantic Ocean, the Gulf of Mexico, the Caribbean Sea. And within these areas, sometimes you have clusters of showers and thunderstorms that develop based on many features. And in those areas, all of them being low pressure areas, they cause clouds to rise. And cloud developing and rising leads to more intense thunderstorm activity usually. And when we have that cluster of thunderstorms, it could be the beginning of what could become a hurricane. So for example, you have a cluster of clouds basically that may have showers and usually have some thunderstorm activity in there. But when you have many of them developing or they get so intense, we might refer to an area of disturbed weather that's over the region. And that would continue to move, but with the rotation of the earth and the forces that act on the surface of the earth, it becomes a somewhat rotating system. So these clouds begin rotating around each other. And so you see the movement basically in that general direction because it's anti-clockwise. Now generally as this thing develops, it gets much more intense with lots more clouds around it developing, but then you could also experience a center being clearly defined that doesn't actually have the clouds, but in that center, everything moves around the center, and in the center is really a calm area. So we talk about the center of the tropical cyclone or the eye of the hurricane, and that would actually be in the middle, sometimes very clearly defined, sometimes it's covered by some clouds in the upper atmosphere, but really when you get to the surface, it is clear. So that's what happens in the center where you have the eye. And then outside of that, these clusters of clouds with the rotation going around anti-clockwise, you also see some bands of clouds that are coming in to the center. So these are clouds coming in, but they generally form in this general pattern where they come in toward the western side of the center, and then they also extend like that from the southern and eastern side. So we end up with a pattern that looks like this.
So this is the symbol that meteorologists look for on satellite imagery. And once that happens, they say that the hurricane is well defined. Hurricanes are classified into categories based on wind speed, using the Saffir-Simpson Hurricane Wind Scale. At its lowest stage, a Category 1 hurricane has sustained wind speeds of at least 74 miles or 119 kilometers per hour. Category 2 sustained wind speeds between 96 and 110 miles per hour. While some devastation may happen in a Category 1 or 2 hurricane, at Category 3 and beyond, wind speed is greater, and so too is the calamity that can occur.
In this case now, you expect some greater devastating effects. So it's more not just extensive damage, but you expect some devastating impact from the system. You have more trees now being toppled. This is when we refer to it as a major hurricane. Major hurricanes are categories 3, 4, or 5.
Of course, during major hurricanes, large trees may be uprooted, more roofs may get lifted, and power lines are likely to go down, possibly for weeks. It is important to note that wind speed is not the only thing to characterize a hurricane. Heavy rainfall too is expected.
You expect more torrential rainfall usually, especially as you move closer and closer to the center of the system. And you also will experience some storm surge flooding, which occurs really along coastal areas where the wind actually moves the waves of the sea onto the land, and that causes destruction as well. The greatest preparation that we can make for hurricanes is really mental. We have to prepare our minds to recognize that we are in a vulnerable place. Where Jamaica is located is always vulnerable, and so hurricanes can occur at any time during the hurricane season.
There are, of course, physical things that must be put in place to minimize how much you are inconvenienced if a hurricane does occur. These include getting non-perishable food, storing water in case resources become inadequate, and seeing about the exterior of your home, reinforcing windows and walls, and checking for anything that can serve as missiles during heavy winds from the hurricane. You want to do all that you can to achieve a reasonable amount of comfort during and after a hurricane. And of course, if you live in an area where your home construction is insecure, you need to identify and make arrangements with emergency shelters near your home. And continue to monitor local news and weather reports for updates.
One of the things that people tend to rely on is that old rhyme that people talk about, June too soon, October all over. Those two come immediately to mind because they are really myths. So the myth about June being too soon is one of them that we really tried to pull people away from, because June is never too soon to prepare for the hurricane season. In fact, the Hurricane Beryl actually began developing in June and moved very close to Jamaica in June. It was on the 1st of July that it started moving into the Caribbean and then impacted us on the 3rd. So June is not too soon for our preparations.
Also, the hurricane season goes until the end of November, and there have been cases where we've had tropical cyclones beyond this period. So it's imperative that we maintain our alertness. Another myth pertains to Hurricane Gilbert, which struck the island in September of 1988. Many Jamaicans are of the view that the hurricane struck Jamaica twice, with many insinuating that it circled the island immediately after it passed. This is so commonly believed that there's even a popular song commemorating the event that echoes those sentiments.
Say, for instance, Jamaica is here, and the eye is moving in this general direction, like Gilbert moved from the east to the west. Initially, the winds, because they are moving in this general direction, anti-clockwise, the winds will be coming from the north because they are rotating around the center. But when the center gets to the other side, meaning that the center has already passed and moved to the west, then the winds now, continuing to move anti-clockwise, are coming from the south. So initially they were coming from the north, but then after the eye passes, the winds now come from the south.
So no, Hurricane Gilbert did not hit Jamaica twice, and thankfully so, because we can all agree that a hurricane passing once is enough. No matter the category, hurricanes can have catastrophic effects. It helps when we are prepared.
Friend, it's the best decision we've ever made to further our education. We finally have our dream jobs that will allow us to enjoy other things in life. The Student Loan Bureau did this for us,
Yes, girl, it was a lot of work, but we made it.
All I have to start thinking about right now is to repay my student loan, and with SLB's low interest rate, I won't feel burdened at all.
Well, I have other things to focus on right now. Loan repayment can stay for later.
Really? Don't you know that when we repay our student loan, others benefit from the fund? Think about your little brother. Don't you want him to benefit too?
Oh, of course.
By paying it forward, we're making sure the next generation has the same opportunities we did.
Well, I guess I never thought about it that way.
I'm happy we had this conversation.
Oh, absolutely. Let me get on it right now.
Yeah, man. Let's make sure others can achieve their dreams too.
Visit our website at slbja.com for more details and follow all our social media platforms to be in the loop.
And with that, we've come to the end of today's show. To catch a repeat of this or any other, feel free to log on to our website, gis.gov.jm. Until next time, I'm Adrian Atkinson. Do take care.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.